I bid you welcome, traveler. Come, sit, relax. Let this ancient storyteller do what he does best. But first, tell me something. Have you ever wondered what it is like to die? To feel your life leave your body? Tonight's tale is just that. This is Any Last Words, written by Serena.
So, this is what it's like to die. Funny, it's not as painful as I imagined. No, the mental images burned into my brain hurt far more than the burning of my flesh. I guess what they said is true, about your own life flashing before your eyes, your final gasp for fleeting air. My life was not a happy one. Though, these images, the ones of my mother and father, so many good memories. But where there is light, there is also darkness. I watched as beggars, thieves, and murderers wandered through the streets of the greatest empire. The darkness grew into the great Crystal Empire revolt. Crystal streets ran red with blood, the blood of villagers, and in the castle, the blood of my parents. My mother, with her dying breath, saved me from the heartless rebels. What a mistake she made. They tore down the castle the day after they declared my parents dead. I watched as they plunged the rebel flag into the gravel of my once home. I remember every pony seemed to be shouting and crying for joy, yet I was only crying in sorrow. They tore down the castle the day after they declared my parents dead. I watched as they plunged the rebel flag into the gravel of my once home. I remember every pony seemed to be shouting and crying for joy, yet I was only crying in sorrow. I don't know why they let me live. Perhaps what my mother said moved something in their black hearts enough to spare me. Or perhaps they figured I would die off from the starvation soon after my release. Feeble-minded ponies, thinking it was wise to let me, their true heir, live. Thinking they would know how to run an empire after they murdered the only ponies who knew how to run it in the first place. Soon, the empire crumbled, just like my castle and all that lived there with it. Life grew far worse for those who lived in the north. I remember having to grovel and beg at the hooves of the filthy vermin. Though I was one of the lucky ones, I had the opportunity to sleep on the cold, crystal streets night after night, rather than in the cold and all too full jails. Ponies passed out in front of my alley, not even to spare a glance at me, a once proud prince, reduced to a skinny, half-starved fool, hoping to hear something fall into my dented cup. The ponies that ignored me, they were the ponies which caused my pain, caused my castle to crumble. They turned my nightmares into reality. Of course, I wasn't the only beggar, but there were so little bits to go around, I assumed every pony counted as a beggar at that point. Some genius thought up the idea of using food as a bargaining tool instead of crystal bits after they started to diminish. That started out well enough, that is, until ponies started getting attacked in the streets. Why did this happen? Why was there so much chaos? I remember that the ponies who took the place of my parents, the High Council as they called themselves, lavished in the finest attire and food money could buy, while the rest of us fought and mauled each other over a weak old piece of crystal corn. They never cared about the villagers in the first place. They only cared about themselves. Surprise! The rebellion was for naught. The only peace I could ever find was in the library. The only place ponies seem to avoid since there is no supply of food there. I studied magic, any type of magic. I studied the ways of the Southern Empire, the two princesses, and how they ruled over their land in harmony. Such a prospering empire that couldn't even spare a few bits to help such a wasteland get out of the grave it dug itself into. I soon realized that I could use my magic to take back the Crystal Empire, my kingdom. I studied every day, yet the magic taught in the books wasn't powerful enough. I remember reading over an old spell book and slamming it down in a fit of rage. I had read hundreds of these books, and yet had learned nothing powerful enough to take back my kingdom. I cried that day, the first time I had cried since I saw my castle reduced to ash. My horn began to glow. Instead of black magic, it slowly burned a dim red. Then the light grew brighter and brighter until it felt as if I was as bright as the sun. My tears of hatred, sorrow, wanting, I could no longer feel them on my cheeks, but they had turned into a strange purple mist. All happened so quickly. Then it vanished. The red glow, the strange mist from my eyes. Everything, except the strange magic had stained my horn a strange reddish color. I stared at myself on the crystal floor, rubbing my horn. It didn't hurt. It was just so strange. Then I realized something. I realized I had just tapped into a hidden magic that was deep within inside me. Magic that was driven by the most powerful emotion in the world. Hate. Every day I went back to the library and sat quietly, tapping into this strange magic, learning to control it. Years went by. The empire grew worse, but my resolve had strengthened. The more my hatred grew, the more powerful my magic became. Frequently, the mist would pour from my eyes, replacing my tears for good. Ponies would stare, but would be too engrossed in their own useless existence that they would pay no heed to me. What fools they were for having no comprehension of my power. I waited patiently for the right time to reign over their ignorance. That glorious time had come. The counselors had all died off, and now the fighting for places in the new council was at hoof. I stepped in, and all I had to do was say some encouraging words about promising food and safety. Their own ignorance elected me as the head of the council. Most of them probably forgot I was the rightful ruler in the first place, or they were so hungry and tired that they didn't care, so long as it meant a full belly. Ignorance is bliss. No. As you can imagine, things went quite smoothly from there, as I promised all the ponies had full bellies. Bellies of the worst grub you could find. They were all safely chained together, so no pony could run away and possibly cause any trouble. My castle was rebuilt in less than a year, 3 times the size it was before. I remember my father and mother each day walking through the castle. Some part of my icy heart was still warm with the thought of their kindness. Yet I could not bear the thought of them seeing me, seeing what I had become. They would never approve yet. I was doing this all for them, or for me. One day I passed by one of the cleaning slaves in the hallway. She reminded me of my mother, always kind and helping. I believe her name was Lily. I had her killed the next day. I had the ponies tap into the underground caves and form the crystals into metals for armor and weaponry. We began trading with other lands, slowly but surely paying back our debts to our debtors. My kingdom prospered, and so did I. That is, till the princes of the south got word of my power. Perhaps they wanted to test my legendary abilities, or maybe they were jealous of what control I had over my subjects. It clearly could not have been as if they cared about my slaves. Why, they did not care before when they were mauling each other in the streets. So why should they care now? Apparently the Sun Princess said I was upsetting the harmony or some such nonsense and threatened to banish me. I laughed in their faces on my balcony of crystal as my slaves watched from below. I raised my horn and told them both to give it the best shot. The battle was glorious. I believe half the city was destroyed in our wake. Unfortunately, I faltered and was banished into the ice for 1,000 years, as a shadow of what I once was. 1,000 years is a lot of time to think. I thought about my existence as I floated around in my icy tomb. Why did I live? Why do I hate my magic? A gift or a curse? I pondered for about 200 years until I came to a realization that every pony was wrong. I was no monster. I was a savior. I was giving them a purpose in their pitiful life. What better purpose than to work and prosper than sit on their lazy plots all day? My hatred for the princesses and the ponies grew. I hated them for their ignorance, their uselessness, and what they considered their normal lives. The ponies lived blind under the reign of the princesses, slaves to their own unknowing. They want to be controlled by a ruler, so be it. I realized the only way to return to my true form would be to engulf the crystal heart in its power once I was free from the ice. Unfortunately, a little dragon stopped me before I could get there. So this is where I am left, turning into ash by the heart's rays, slowly burning my pelted skin off. Now that I think about it, is this all just in my head? I suppose no pony will ever hear my last testament. Though, if I could have any, my last words would be a curse! Curse all the ponies! Curse them for killing my parents! For killing me! Curse them for being so useless and feeble! And curse myself for not being able to show them the true pain that they deserved! The rays are starting to sting now! Everything is becoming black! Where do ponies go after they die? I never thought of that before. Maybe I'll somehow live through this. No, I'll never come back. But if I could, then somewhere, somehow, I'd find a way to rule again, to crush all of them. Only if there was a way to be a shadow of pain to them all.